Alien, Romulus. Released August 16th, 2024. Directed by Fede Alvarez. Written by Fede Alvarez, Rodo Sayegh, and Dan O'Bannon. Starring Kelly Spaney, David Johnson, and Archie Reno. Rotten Tomatoes score, 81%. Metacritic, 64. IMDb, 7.5. Welcome back to Real Reviews. Like always, I am your host, Lee. Today we are talking about Alien Romulus. This movie is a sequel to Alien, the original 1979 movie. It occurs 20 years in universe after the end of Alien. I have seen the original 3 Alien movies, but not the newer ones like Prometheus and Covenant. Typically, I find myself enjoying the movies, and this one was no different, but let's talk about it. I want to get something out of the way. This movie follows all the normal rules of an Alien movie. Facehugger to xenomorph, acid blood, stealth hunter, Weyland-Yutani being pretty evil. If you have watched Alien movies, this won't feel like a horror movie because you already get the beats. It becomes a question of who dies, when and how. The opening plot is pretty decent. A group of younger people from a mining colony, which is very reminiscent of a company town, discover that a Weyland-Yutani ship is abandoned in the upper orbit. They decide to go aboard it to get cryopods, so they can leave to the next system, which is 9 years away. They are trying to leave because in their home there really isn't an escape. Most will likely die there than get out. Honestly, it is a pretty good setup. The writing isn't terrible, everything that happens is certainly set up so nothing is shocking. The effects are good. Much of it looks like it is done with practical effects, which honestly makes it look all the better, and so much more gross than it would look if it was computer generated. The acting isn't bad, but it also isn't great. David Johnson probably puts in the best performance because he has to switch between very different attitudes, and he does a great job. Kelly Spaney does okay as the lead, but again, if you have seen Alien, not a whole lot that she does feels original or interesting. That isn't really her fault though, so much as how her character was designed in the script. The side characters weren't the worst. One I didn't like, but again, not an acting problem so much as a direction problem. Let's get to some questions.
How does Alien Romulus explore new aspects of the xenomorph mythology? Are there any significant expansions or revisions to the creature's lore?
It doesn't add a whole lot like I mentioned before. They do add or expand on a few things though. There is a new tool that can be used in future movies and a new type of xenomorph. I think the tool will be more interesting in future installments, more than the new xenomorph, as it is highly situational as to when and how the new xenomorph comes about.
What is the primary setting of Alien Romulus, and how does it influence the film's atmosphere and tension?
The main setting is a Weyland-Yutani space station with 2 sides, Romulus and Remus. It is abandoned and on a trajectory to crash into the rings around the planet. Honestly, they only use the fact that it is abandoned as a reason to have bad lighting. I do understand that dark corridors and hidden passages are kind of the bread and butter of xenomorphs, but there isn't really a single scene, even on planet, that has good lighting. I feel like the Romulus and Remus naming currently comes off as more lazy, but could have, and potentially could be something interesting. Romulus and Remus, according to myth, are twins who founded Rome. Maybe there will be a movie called Alien Remus that will lead to the creation of a new empire, whether that be an alien empire or a human one outside of Weyland-Yutani's control.
How does Alien Romulus balance horror and sci-fi elements? Does it lean more heavily towards one genre, and how does this affect the storytelling?
I actually think that if you have never seen an Alien movie before in your life, and you aren't familiar with all of the tropes built into them, that this has a good balance of horror and sci-fi. But if you are familiar, then it really just feels like a sci-fi suspense. I do think this is often an issue with any horror franchise. They have rules they need to follow to be faithful to the material, but those rules also make it predictable. Thinking more and more about the movie, I realized that especially with the mentioning of Romulus and Remus, this movie, in my opinion, kind of botched the ending. There is a point when it could have ended. It would have set up a threat that the audience knows about, but not the characters. It would have made me wonder, how are they going to deal with this in the next movie? But I am left wondering if there will be another movie with these characters, and what can they do to keep it interesting? So this movie is weird when it comes to my ratings. I have obviously pointed out a few problems, and even ways in which it could be considered a bit of a letdown, but all that aside, it hits all the points for my scale, so it gets an 8 out of 8, or a perfect score. This kind of highlights the reason for my scale. My personal enjoyment is only a small aspect of it, and like anyone, I can enjoy something and realize it isn't perfect. I don't think this movie is perfect, but I do think it is worth a watch. Like always, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. I typically have at least 2 videos out per week. Real reviews like this one or AI reviews depending on releases. Until next time.